was John Gibbons in order to look back at the game against Atletico Madrid, look ahead to the game against West Ham United, get your comments in all the way through this. Hope you enjoy it. It's also a podcast. So coming up on that podcast, we've got Ryan Baldy, Michael McCambridge and Rachel Furness talking to Harriet Pryor. Marvellous stuff. Great marriage there, John, of the North and South East. Well done on booking that
one. Well, I mean, it's international, isn't it? The segments today. Both sides of the pond. Both sides of the pond.
Yeah, so they are all to come for you. But we are going to start off talking about Liverpool's excellent performance against Atletico Madrid. El Grupo del Morte, Damian. And yet Liverpool do it with 2 games to spare. It's not what anyone saw coming, and I'll include myself in that. I was all right with the draw when it came out. I thought, no, that'll suit us. I felt United's draw was stickier, and that's the way it's proven so far. You know, a lot of sides there that are happy to play as the smaller team. Liverpool have played, though, like a big team in the big competition, and they've done the big job early.
Oh, we were nails, weren't we? What a marvellous performance that was last night. Absolutely great. All that we wanted and all that we know it's capable of. And while we've flickered a little bit in the Premier League, and I'm nitpicking there with, where we are in the league and that, Champions League, we've just done the business, haven't we? I remember saying a little, I can't remember what show it was on, a group of death, for everybody else. Because we're going through and 2 of them's going out. That's how I felt about it. But Liverpool played like that. Liverpool came out and went, we've done all this before. And what I've really enjoyed about the Atletico thing is, we had hard lines when they knocked us out a while ago, but it was like a nice way to go out in the fact that you throw everything at them and they ride the luck, and the goalie plays great and the atmosphere is marvellous. And I know it was a very sad occasion and very difficult to think of it in a football context, but if you think about the game itself, it was like that's how champions need to go out, when they're banging at the door and all this. Well, Liverpool have learned a bit there, haven't they? And they thought, this isn't happening again. Yous are getting it. And we've put them to the sword, good style. The results have been fantastic. Spanish champions, not good enough to beat Liverpool. We were just great all over the pitch.
We were much the better side. In to sort of take the long view on the group, Emma, Liverpool are significantly better at Anfield than Milan. They, in the end, absolutely dominate Porto. There is a very sticky hour, if we're all honest, and we can be honest, in Madrid. But Liverpool weather it and come out the other side, showing so much nous and so much needle through that game in Madrid. And then last night, again, Liverpool just utterly dominant. I don't think you can overstate how well Liverpool have played to get on 12 points. It has not been easy. Every single one of those games has been a challenge, and yet there Liverpool are 12 points and through.
And yet they kind of made it look easy as well. You look back to kind of 2016 when Jurgen Klopp came in, and even, I guess, maybe up until 2018-19, you never really felt that Liverpool were quite at that level where they could just go and ease through groups in the Champions League in the way that they have done in obviously this year and the year that they won it. So I think that has been a progression under Jurgen Klopp, is that they now feel like they are absolutely the best in Europe and they're playing like it. And they go into games with that kind of mentality and that kind of attitude. And I think Damian's right. The way that they looked at the group was, it's not a group of death. It's if we can put down a marker early on and kind of get up to the levels that we want to be playing at in the knockout stages, because that's where Liverpool always thought that they would be, then that's only going to put us in good stead for, further down the line in the competition. And I think, other teams now that are coming through maybe slightly easier groups, people might say that Chelsea have had a bit of an easier group in comparison to Liverpool. Liverpool are already at the levels that they need to be to reach the latter stages of the competition, and those other teams might need to take a little bit of time to get to there. So I think it's an advantage for Liverpool.
The maturity of it, John, and the grabbing of the challenge that's in front of you is what's most impressed me about the way in which they've gone about the business in these 4 games. They look like, I think, like European royalty. We often use that line. But as Emma says, that's something you often grow into through a competition. Now, the thing that's always in the back of your mind, there's such a thing as peaking too early, but I don't think there is. Even thinking about when they went through, remember it went to the last game against Salzburg, but they just sort of turned up with a certain level of assurance, and they've taken that level of assurance and they've put it in every single one of these games when they've needed it, because they haven't been all straightforward and easy. They've got themselves into a little bit of bother, but the assurance and the maturity is what's impressed me.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. And I think last night, that they started well, I thought, but we get the goal. And that's what, the top teams do, don't they? They had a bit of a flurry, not no sort of big chances, but they were attacking certainly, and then boom, the moment of real quality comes from Trent Alexander-Arnold's right foot, and Diogo, is there to sort of put it in, and then from there, we were just happy to play the game on our terms, really. And I included the sending off. I thought the sending off changed the game out there. I thought here it only changed the game in the fact that we were able to play the rest of the game completely on our terms, up to and including just seeing out time sort of towards the end, really, and making sure that there was no more sort of injuries or sort of anyone that, because that was the only sort of negative on the night. But we're in a superb position, and to beat the Spanish champions home and away is fantastic. But what we did in Porto was incredible as well, and sort of shouldn't be forgotten. And then AC Milan, that first half an hour was maybe the most scintillating of all. We let them back in almost because we were sort of finding it too easy, but then went on to win it. But that first half hour against Milan was arguably the best we've played all season in terms of a sustained burst. It was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, everyone's talking about Liverpool. I'm sure all eyes are on the Reds, and looking like if we're not the team to beat them, we're in the top one.
There's Damian. There is something around the manager talked a lot about it being dramatic. He's talked about emotion. He talked about emotion out there. He talked about the atmosphere out there a lot. Liverpool managed the emotion, I think, of the occasion. Again, both games in different ways, absolutely brilliantly. Liverpool do not get carried away with themselves, I don't think, at any stage. They don't get carried away with the occasion. The talk of, and I'm sure it was knocking around that dressing room, a bit of revenge will have been present, but they don't even lose themselves in that nonsense. It is a managed, emotional, aggressive, but managed emotional performance.
Yeah, controlled aggression, and that's the key to champions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not get carried away. If you think about the emotional team that goes all the way to Kiev and comes up very slightly short, it's all emotion, it's all playing like that, it's putting the heart on the pitch and that. A year later, the team wins, kills the European Cup final after 2 minutes, learns its lessons. This team currently in Europe is playing in that manner of that assuredness, swagger. We've been round this before. We've done the course, we've done the distance, we're the business. And so they've looked at that last year. It must have, well, when was it? It was obviously just before the pandemic. They must have looked at that. It must have hurt them. It must have thought, we were better than them and they got away with it. How do you solve this? What do you do again? What do you think? We got involved in niggles here and there. Well, none of that. No more. None of that. And you could see that that's what they were doing, weren't you? And so what they were trying to do, say, for example, they're trying to gold Mane, and that's the plan, and get him sent off. And that's not the first time a team's tried that. But it's like, I'll tell you what, let them follow that line. Let them burn themselves out with it. Let them get carried away. We won't make that mistake. Don't fall for it, because we're better than them. We'll keep our shape. We'll keep our aggression. You will use the crowd to our advantage, in the home games. It was just so assured all over the pitch. And Liverpool are just really showed.
We may have lost Damian for a brief second.
Missed out of hand. Atletico Madrid were great. They were great enough to win the Spanish league, but we're better than them. And I just really enjoyed the fact that it was just, let them be niggly. But I tell you what, we'll piss them off even more when we put them to bed. Let them have the sleepless night, not us.
Very much so. Emma, on individual performances, a couple of things in the selection we're knocking around. In the comments, Barry Higgins says Ox's ability to take the ball, turn and run at the defence last night was great to see. Listen, I was probably like a lot of other people, Chamberlain was frustrating. I felt a little bit against Brighton. It wasn't just him, but he was a little bit frustrating. And I was having one of those conversations before the match with Rob Gutman, like we could just do with a little bit more of this, a little bit more of this. You got everything you wanted in the middle of midfield from Chamberlain last night. Everything that you want him to produce in the middle of the park, apart from one or two slightly errant passes after he'd gone past a couple. Everything else about his game was spot on.
Yeah, I think he suits games where the opposition are a bit slower and they give him a bit more time on the ball. And maybe the fact that Atletico were just constantly looking to kill any kind of tempo or any kind of intensity worked in his favour, because he kind of just plays at the same intensity all the time. So the second he picks up the ball, the first thing he's wanting to do is obviously drive it, through the middle and drive at players and take players on. And I think that quick kind of burst of pace catches teams like Atletico out when they're just trying to constantly kill the game and constantly slow things down. And so I think that really worked well last night for Liverpool, and it worked well for Oxlade-Chamberlain. But I think that was by far his best game for a very, very long time. I would like to see him do that more consistently. Like you say, he can be quite frustrating, But yeah, he's definitely got the quality there, and he gives something a little bit different to Liverpool's midfield. Obviously, he's coming back still from that injury, he's still not at the heights that he was at before that. So yeah, I hopefully, a good couple of run of games, he can get back to the level that he was, because he's clearly got ability, and when he's on it, he's a real asset for Liverpool.
Yeah, there was a sharpness and a burst of pace that I'd almost forgotten he had, to be honest with you. And so when Emma says, he's not quite back to his best, yeah, I think that's fair. But, you were seeing certainly more than glimpses of it last night. And when he was leaving those midfielders for dead, I was like, oh, yeah, remember he used to do that, you know what I mean? And he's able to sort of do that. And it's a game changer if you've got a player who can do that, because they want to sit in, they want to stifle, they want to sort of frustrate you. If you've got someone who's able to just burst past his man, and then suddenly the defensive midfielders like, well, do I go, or do I need to go over and cover, or do I sort of stay with my man? It just opens up space, and you can see him opening space up for others all night, really, and around him. And I think he did help the forwards, out in terms of creating sort of a bit more room for them. I thought it was a great performance, but it was just a much balanced midfield throughout, wasn't it? And I think it allowed them all, to shine. I did the ratings at the weekend, and I think I said for all the midfielders, you've got to caveat it with they wouldn't have picked the other two to play with them. Well, I think tonight they would have. You know what I mean? Certainly Chamberlain, he'd have been like, yeah, give me some of this. Hendo and Fabinho, absolutely brilliant. This is a perfect platform for me. Obviously for Jordan as well. It's great. Having Fabinho sort of in behind them, but also someone like Chamberlain who can, it's not all on him to sort of add the emphasis as it has been. He's almost been too defensive and too attacking at times, Henderson, this season, in terms of what we've been asking him to do. So it was perfect for him. And obviously Fabinho, it took about 3 minutes for him to do something brilliant, and yes, is right.
I must say, by the way, I just think that's a great point by John there. I think he's bang on. I think the midfield three that we've got, we looked at the Brighton game, and we were all over the place. And okay, that wasn't just the midfield, but that's what we're talking about here. But it's like there's two halves to our midfield, and we've got two positions, and basically you need a couple of the experienced guys in there. And if Oxlade's going to flourish, or Keita, or Curtis, or Harvey, he needs two of them other old boys in there. And I'm not saying we couldn't get away with it in other games. There'll be games where we can win without, one of the older heads, one of the steadier heads in there. But we need two of them. And when we've got two of them, it gets the best out of the other one. Because that's to support the attack, to be, up there, up and down, a license to go past the player, to try something, because of the assuredness of who you've got around you. And so it's that combination. It's like two halves of the midfield, but two of them need to be the older heads, and one of them can be anyone. As long as you've got that combination with that, it doesn't matter which ones they are, as long as it's that combination at the highest level. Like I say, I think we can win games without it being that. But when it comes to when you really want Liverpool to do the best, it has to be that.
Next thing to go through the match is Tsimikas. A couple of comments have come through about him. I don't think it was that bold a pick by the manager. I think Tsimikas has done relatively well this season. But let's be clear about this. It was a game where it would make a massive difference for Liverpool if they won it. And I thought that he, from minute one, applied himself expertly, really. And up and down the whole line, linking up with his teammates. This is now a footballer who looks not just like he's got a level of ability, which I think we all sort of knew, but he's also built relationships with his teammates now. And last night he was able to exploit them to the full.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I think the early signs of Tsimikas when he came to Liverpool was that, look, he had a great delivery. You could see he was really good in attacking areas. But like you say, there were times when he just wasn't quite in the right position, or he was sort of, looking over his shoulder to look at the likes of Virgil van Dijk, sort of asking, where do you want me to be? And now that comes a bit more second nature. And Klopp knew that. I think, he always said he needs a bit of time. And I think physically as well, he's much better adapts. You saw him getting really, really stuck in. I actually think he enjoyed the physical side of the game last night. I quite think he's got that kind of grittiness about him now that he perhaps didn't have when he first came in, a bit more aggression. And he's playing with that, both on the ball and off the ball. And yeah, I thought the organisation just across the board last night was really, really good. Obviously, having Fabinho back in midfield just helped settle midfield. The back all worked really nicely together. And obviously, we know how well Trent, Salah, and obviously Henderson over on that right-hand side have been linking up really well. But Tsimikas was able to do it on the left with Mane in the first half before he went off. And he just kind of carried that, the whole way through. So yeah, I think it's really, really good to have that option, because, I remember it was only maybe 18 months ago that we were talking about having no depth at fullback, in the drop off between Trent and Robbo and the likes of Nico Williams and Tsimikas at the time was so big, and yet now Robertson's form has dipped a little bit this season. He's not really up at the standards that he has been in the past. At the moment, he's obviously played a lot of games, so the fact that you can just bring Tsimikas in and it doesn't really feel like there's been much of a drop off at the moment, I think is just really, really good for Klopp.
It's going to lead, and we're going to talk later on, Damian, about the game coming up against West Ham United, but it's going to lead to a manager having a little bit of a decision to make at some point soon. These are good options, good decisions for a manager to have. But if Tsimikas just keeps putting his performances in, and I'm sure that's what the manager will be saying to him, then at some point, effectively, he'll get a game that you wouldn't expect him to get. And Sunday could be the first of them, but there might be a couple of others on the horizon.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was Sunday. I mean, basically, as a manager, you'd just say to your players, wouldn't you, well, put me in a position where I can't not pick you. And Robertson's played so much football. He's not going away anyway. He's still world class. He's still fantastic. But, to get the best out of him, you need a degree of freshness. And then you need a player who can build up some rhythm. I mean, Robertson himself didn't get in the team for a very long time. Fullback's a very difficult position to play at Liverpool. More difficult than in any other team, because we place such emphasis and such quality. And then the standard of this lad as a replacement, he's just very competent. That's the first thing. Gets all the basics right, and then he's got that wand of the left foot that everyone likes talking about, haven't he? We can throw one in, can't he? And then all of a sudden, it's not like Jimmy Milner's covering all the bases and then has to turn back inside on himself and then play a ball inside that can be a bit more predictable or give the opposition half a second. This lad can just bend it round, and put really quality chances in there. So yeah, I mean, this lad is certainly, if he plays on Sunday, he's earned the right, and it's no bad thing for the best of players, and Robertson certainly is the best of players. To just have that little bit of you just need a bit of competition here. So I've rested you, and now I've showed you you're not indispensable. Go and give me your best. I'm going to say the same to you as I've just said to Tsimikas. It's first world problems. It's a fantastic position for us to be in. If we can get it right on the other side at fullback, we'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he? And he's really emerged this season as a genuine option. And whether that's someone just to come in and give Andy Robertson a rest, or whether that's a little bit more than that, time will tell. I think if he's not yet picked Tsimikas in 2 or 3 games on a bounce, as he's been in for one and then sort of out again. So that'll be the sort of the real sign that Klopp sees him as a first team player, or at least on a sort of a level as Andy Robertson. I saw in a few comments about Robbo just sort of needing a long rest, and I think it shouldn't be underestimated how much the international football takes out of Robertson physically and emotionally. And I think that it's no surprise to me that he's dipped a little bit while there's a lot of international football on. And I think, get the other side of this international break, then there's a bit of a gap, isn't it? That I think it just allow him to sort of get into a bit more of a rhythm with Liverpool. He plays almost every minute of every game for Scotland. He captains them. He puts so much into him. That Israel game that I know you watched, Neil. I think he ran sort of two games basically, didn't he? And he's brilliant. And they're playing 3 times now that we've, the kind of thing that we've sort of moaned about. And so I think that's just, a bit of a hangover from the summer maybe as well, where he sort of put a lot into that tournament. And so I think, I'm not worried about him at all. I know there was another comment before about, is it a bit of a drop off for him? Is he sort of almost on the way out? I can't remember sort of what it was, but I don't think so. I think, he'd be fine. And as I say, come Christmas when we need all the bodies and everyone, he's going to be better than ever.
Well, I mean, the come Christmas points is a lot of this is about to sort of come live, Emma, for Liverpool. I think for me, one of the things that's interesting is how right Fabinho looked, and yes, it was against 10, but Thiago came on, and you've got to be careful with Thiago, because not only does he do a lot of good things, but everything he does looks so good. I mean, he can pass it 5 yards and make me go, oh. It's absolutely outrageous.
Sometimes he just rolls his foot over the ball, doesn't it? And you're like, oh, mate.
Yeah, honestly, how are you allowed to be screened before 9 p.m?
He does it all with perfect hair as well.
And his posture is back up, him looking everywhere. Honestly, it's absolutely filthy. Everything he does, even the most mundane thing, Thiago, Emma. But you've got to be careful not to get sort of carried away by that. It's still moving the ball around the pitch and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm coming towards is that Liverpool now, not only do they have 2 games in Europe that will be as dead rubbers as they can be, the manager talked about the prize money that's at stake, but also within that, we're about to hit the other side of this, a run of games where you want to be able to pick Tsimikas. You want to be able to pick 2 of, as Damian saying before, Thiago, Henderson and Fabinho. You want to be able to rotate them. And it's why the only real downer on the night was the Firmino situation. We still don't have any clarity on it, but Liverpool, we're coming to a point in the season where we want to be spoiled for choice. We want the manager to have choices to make coming into every game, because you back him to make the right ones 95% of the time. And we've got excellent players. So we can have a really fresh crew going all the way through here. The season's opened up lovely after the international break.
Yeah, I think rotation is obviously one thing, like you say, but then also there's the opportunity to build a bit of momentum in terms of consistency with certain personnel as well in the team. So the midfield is a brilliant example. The fact that we've hardly seen kind of, an Oxlade-Chamberlain, for example, combination with Fabinho and Henderson is just one example in midfield. So it's an opportunity for those 3, or for the likes of Thiago, Henderson and Fabinho, etc. I think there's kind of 2 elements to that. Certainly, and I think I was doing the live text on the website at work last night, and I think I made a comment sort of, maybe the 70th minute or so, that Liverpool, it looked like to me, were making a conscious kind of effort to give Thiago the ball. It was almost like they wanted him to get on it. They wanted him to get the touches and just get his flow going a little bit. And I think that was, all part of this kind of maturity that we spoke about earlier. But also, I think they recognise that further down the line, as you say, those 2 games in the group games is a really good opportunity for someone like Thiago, who's probably the one that really stands out for me, that you just want to give him the ball as often as he possibly can, just to get that touch back, because the way he plays is so aesthetic, but it is so kind of fine detailed, and it's all those little flicks and the little tricks, and he probably takes a bit longer to get back to his level than maybe, somebody like Henderson, for example, just because of the technicality of what he does. So I think those games are a really, really good opportunity to not only rotate, but also just to get those players really up to speed for the latter stages of the competition, and obviously for the Premier League as well.
Last little thing on it, Damian, is I thought that having vanquished Atletico Madrid, it was striking to me how much effectively both sides, as soon as the disallowed goal wasn't given, the extent to which I felt both sides decided that'll do us. Yeah. I think that's something. There's something, even there's much talk around Simeone and his ways and all of this. There's something, I think, in the Champions League that is reassuringly sane at times. There is a lot of, really elite, the very, very best professionals just decide, and I think in that instance you see it from Atletico Madrid, they basically decide after the disallowed goal's not given, they just say, you know what, we just don't want to get whacked here. No one wants to get embarrassed. No one wants to get humiliated. And again, talking about the maturity and managing themselves, I think Liverpool show that in the way in which they just keep the ball, move them around a little bit, look to create a thing or two. But there's not a desperation there from Liverpool. They didn't risk anything. What they had, they held.
Well, we got a bit of practice in at Old Trafford, didn't we, for that second half, just strolling round and get, playing an occasion and that. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The ring craft we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
this is a team that's done the course and the distance. This is a team that knows its way around. And, like I say, the team that ran to Kiev, the most romantic of teams, might have pressed on last night and might have won 4 or 5, 1 or 2. But in the long run, in preserving energy and knowing how to kill games and taking stuff that you're going to be keeping the good habits and getting muscle memory that you're going to need in knockout matches as well, bringing them to the group matches. And it's just sort of like, we'll put them in that box and we don't need to strain ourselves here, do we, lads? We don't need any injuries. We don't need another sending off. We don't. And what we want to do is we want to look like we're in control. We want to show everybody else. And it was like almost an arrogance about it of saying, This is the fiery, this is the dangerous Atleti team, where if it's not going well, they'll drag you down to a level. And Liverpool have just said, yeah, for everybody else. That's what they did last night. That, like when you see them with the little kid and you just sort of, putting on your hand on their head and they can't quite get anywhere near you. That's the box that we had them in last night. And they knew it, because earlier in the game, they thought, well, we've got something to fight for. We couldn't have to with the result here because, our qualification is in jeopardy here. By the time it was very obvious that the game was won, it was like, yeah, let's not get the goal difference battered. We'll have to fight someone else another day. But we're not fighting here. This is it. We've lost.
Excellent stuff in the comments. Jason Lee, it was his first match he's ever been to last night. Had a brilliant time. I always say it, John, it's always someone's first game. It's one of my favourite things about going to Anfield. Someone's always going for the first time. Last night was a good first one, I'd say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was a belter. I remember just been reminded before by someone DMing me, meeting a subscriber from Brooklyn who was over sort of with the family and stuff like that, and they were absolutely, loving it in the Glenbook last night, as you can imagine, sort of loving the atmosphere, and yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. It was a boss Anfield night. It
really was. Adam F. Patrick says this, thought Matip was tremendous last night. He was indeed. Liverpool love giving a player a chance to redeem himself. It's one of the favourite things to do. Poor in the first game at Madrid, but given all the opportunities by his manager to prove himself and go a little bit better. Ant Wango says everyone wanted Shimikas out, Keita out, Origi out, Oxlade out. Taki out will be proven wrong again. Maybe, but there's a long way to go in the season, Ant. And I think the other thing as well is to always remember the first principle of everything. We're all Reds here. So let's bear that in mind as we rattle right the way through. Little bit on Firmino being out, hopefully back after the international break. Cop on podcast, hello, say that Thiago is mustard. He is indeed. He is an absolute pleasure to watch. This is TAW Live. Now, if you listen to this as a podcast, what will happen is you will hear me talking to John and Michael McCambridge about a book I've written with Michael McCambridge. It's all a bit weird, but we get through the segment all in one piece. Don't be worried about it too much at all. Also, you'll have Harriet Pryor talking to Rachel Furness and me talking to Ryan Baldy about his book. Everything that you need coming up on the TAW Live podcast. But if you're stuck with us and you've stuck with us on TAW Live, we'll be back now and we will talk to Damian and to Emma about the game coming up at West Ham United. I always say it, John. I think I stole it from Adam Melia, but I love it. He packs his lunch in a sunblessed bag. The children call him Moisey. He is doing an excellent job at West Ham. He deserves a ton of credit, to be honest with you, and I think we can all be magnanimous enough to give him that credit. It's remarkably impressive what he's done. It really, really is, and it shows what he can do with a group of footballers who suit him when he gets a bit of time with them. I'm stunned how effusive in my praise I keep being about David Moyes. I never thought I would see the day.
There wasn't even a 1 second break this week, by the way. We were straight in there. Poor Andy's going to have to shoehorn crowbar those segments in there. He's just done a time on it. Moisey, maybe he is a football genius after all. The cop called it first. He used to sort of sing it. He's done really well. The thing he's got them doing, which is quite a basic thing, but they're enjoying it, aren't they? They're enjoying the football. They're enjoying each other. The team spirit seems fantastic.
It really does.
And whenever there's players out, they seem to sort of still find a way. So whenever they've got injuries, I always think, here we go, especially with forwards out and things like that. But other guys sort of seem to be able to come in and do the business for them. And, they're doing really well. And as you say, Neil, Moyes deserves a lot of credit for that. I don't think they've beat a team as good as Liverpool so far this season. So I think will be, a big test for them. But they've certainly picked up a lot of points so far. And we'll have to be pretty close to our best to win on this Sunday, I reckon.
There's with them, Damian, they're playing tonight, so let's be crystal clear. They haven't played against Genk yet. That's to come, and it's really in their interest to get through, because if you're first, you guarantee the place in the last 16 in the Europa League now. Second, whoever finishes second, they all play the teams that drop down from the Champions League. So it's always they don't want that West Ham. If they win tonight, they're absolutely guaranteed that they will come first in that group. So I think you'll play a relatively strong side against Genk. So we've got to be clear that that they've got that game in. So there'll be 5 or 6 who'll be playing both matches from the West Ham point of view. But it won't include Mikel Antonio almost certainly. He's been looking after them a little bit over the course of the season, and he's been managing his squad brilliantly. To be 9 points out of 9 in any group, which is where they are with the Europa League, is excellent. To be 4th in the Premier League, excellent. They're beating both Manchester teams in the Carabao Cup, excellent. It's an excellent season. It really is for them so far, and we've got a task, I think, on Sunday, stopping West Ham, stopping Antonio, derailing that excellent momentum that they've got.
Yeah, you can only give them 10 out of 10, can't you?
Very much so.
Oh, yeah, and the Moyes thing, I get it. If you look at what the job he did at Everton, and I don't want to be patronised about it, because it's not. if you look at the expectations that were on Everton when he took over and where he took them, they were a real danger, weren't they? And they were knocking on that door about getting into the Champions League.
He were a shambles when he took over. I remember.
Yeah. And I actually think part of the reason he got the gig was the fact that he was a manager in the Championship, and had he gone down, he had the experience there as well. I think it was Everton were that bad at the time, but he made them into a real force. With a real thorn in anyone's side. And I know he didn't win away to the bigger ones, but there's a budget there, and it's when he's given a different deck of cards that wasn't playing to his strengths. But to be organised, to be difficult to beat, team spirit, players knowing the roles, capitalising on another team making a mistake, because they underestimate them. That's all David Moyes, and so he's got a platform here at West Ham for that to flourish, because that's the gig. And if West Ham finish, roughly speaking, where they are now, or a place or two lower, then he'll be noted as a success, and quite rightly too. And as for Europe, I never get why teams want to finish high up in the league to qualify for Europe and then throw themselves out of it at the first opportunity, because it's called the Europa League. What realistically for West Ham would be a successful season in Europe? Well, I tell you what, they're in probably the strongest league in Europe, and they're right up there pushing at the top. It's glory time, isn't it? I mean, there'll be a statue to this fella if he wins that Europa League, and there'll be statues to those players, and it'll be another thing. So why not roll all that positivity and sort of just enjoy and embrace it? I mean, I loved Liverpool's run to the UEFA Cup final under Klopp. It was great. And so going back to it, Moyes deserves all the credit, and we've got our hands full, no question about it. But just watching Liverpool last night and knowing what they can do, I think West Ham will know that they're going to be playing a team at a different level now. And we've got to just go there and do the business. And if we concentrate on ourselves, it'll be 3 points.
I've just said live, Emma, that Antonio won't play the Europa League game. He has been picked to play the Europa League game. First foot Moyes has put wrong as far as I'm concerned in ages. Just made it show me.
He's got you on the back foot already.
Oh, God. Honestly, I feel as though we've lost the toss, John.
You only did it to prove we were live.
Oh, good God. He's picked Rice. He's picked Ben Rama. He's picked a couple of others who I think would feature against us. Kufal maybe. Yeah. But he's been picking Ben Johnson recently. Creswell will finish again. Will start against us as well. So he's got 4 or 5 in there who will start against us. But as Damian's saying, and the thing too, firstly, I spoke to a West Ham supporter earlier, and he pointed out they've got a lot of big games in December. They will want the Europa League to be finished from their point of view and parked until they're getting into next February. But as part of all of this, as Damian says, the idea of them taking that competition seriously, I think it's hugely important. It is as likely a route as any to get into playing in the Champions League. But also, as Damian says, the idea of your supporters enjoying themselves. We're going to be dealing a point here on Sunday, I think, every chance, with a very buoyant West Ham crowd. They should be buoyant. It's 4:30 on a Sunday. It's a massive game. They're playing Liverpool. And I think we're going to have to really, as Damian says, we're really going to have our hands full. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be rowdy. They're going to be confident. They're going to love their footballers, because at the minute, those footballers, they're worth loving. They love each other. The togetherness there at the minute is unprecedented in the last 10 years at West Ham. It really is.
Yeah, the feeling is just so good though. You speak to anyone associated with the club, and everyone's, all they can say is that they're just really enjoying it. And yeah, kind of, back to the kind of the European point. I mean, it's not only just about obviously getting the qualification for the Champions League, but they've got a very, very good chance of winning an actual trophy, a very, very well respected trophy. So, I think Vladimir Sufel actually said earlier this week that if they can, get the job done in the Europa League, then it'll be a bonus, was the word that he used. And I think that shows you kind of how far West Ham have come, that they're already thinking about the bigger picture in terms of challenging in multiple competitions. That's not something that they would have thought about before. But the fact that, they've got it so ingrained in their head that they need to win tonight, and therefore they've got the bonus of avoiding that kind of playoff and just getting through to the knockout stages of the Europa League, so that they can turn their full attentions to the Premier League. And I think that mentality is something that's growing at West Ham. They know now that they can compete with the top teams, and they know that they are starting to put pressure on. They're only 2 points behind Liverpool. They can overtake them with a win on the weekend. They're right up there, obviously, with Manchester City. They're 4th in the table, so why not go for it? Absolutely, they've got everything to go for. But yeah, I just say from Liverpool's point of view, I think it's just a case of kind of reminding them really that while they're kind of in this honeymoon period and they're on a roll, and it's great for them. What Liverpool have built over time is a kind of a stature that West Ham aren't anywhere near yet. And that's what Liverpool need to do, is just remind them and say, look, we are Liverpool. You're playing this, and this is what it means to play a real elite team.
We had result and performance last night against Madrid, John. I felt Liverpool after the Brighton game needed in either last night against Madrid or this one coming up against West Ham to put a performance in. They obviously needed to get 2 results as well, but it was nice. I wanted at least a performance in one of them. I think a similar sort of performance against West Ham is the sort of thing that West Ham will struggle a teeny bit to cope with. I think Liverpool can grab control of this game, given the way in which West Ham set up. They also like to try to play a little bit on the counter. We're going to have to be really sharp in transition and all of that sort of stuff coming up against this West Ham side. But for me, this is a game where last season when we went there, it finishes 3-0, but it's a very even game for about 55 minutes. We've got to grab this one, I think, by the scruff of the neck early, because I think the more time we give them to believe, to grow, the more I think you'll get that crowd up. Those players will be looking at one another. First half an hour is big for the Reds.
It is, yeah, and I hope they approach it in a similar way to last night, because, we were all frustrated by the Brighton game, but, it was sort of hard to put a finger on what was wrong, really. You just knew it wasn't right. And then when last night they're playing with that intensity, they're playing with that cutting edge, you're like, yeah, this is what the real Liverpool, look like. We've stood up here and shown absolutely what we're about. And, it was sort of, night and day from that performance to sort of how we finished up against Brighton, which was a bit sort of lifeless and a bit clueless, really. Well, they were sharp in mind and body last night, where they were first to everything, and they were smarter, than the opposition sort of as well, really, and then able to sort of kill the game when it suited us too, which there'll probably have to be a little bit of that, on Sunday, because you can't just blow a team away. Certainly not a good one, not for 90 minutes. You can blow a team away for 15, 20 and get ahead, but there will be at some point they'll need to show control, but they showed plenty of that last night as well. So we've got it in us. We just need to go again, dust ourselves off. A couple might need a couple of bandages or a bit of strapping or whatever, but just go again, because it's a big game Sunday, but I think they can do it.
Do you think? I think there's a chance. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm not even saying it's the likelier thing to happen, but there's a fair chance, John, he goes unchanged.
Yeah, there is a good chance of that. I mean, the front three, he'll more or less have to, I think, because obviously Bobby comes on and then sort of gets injured. Midfield, we've not got a ton of options. I don't know whether he might just think it's one game too far for Chamberlain. Chamberlain goes off, and the manager says after that, he wasn't injured, but he took some knocks, and he's played quite a lot of football.
Because he's had Preston as well. He got the full 90 against Preston pretty much.
Yeah. So Preston on the back of Brighton, and then this one. I think he'd be tempted to go Thiago in this one, with Thiago getting sort of a nice 20 minutes, and maybe even just asking for an hour for him. Fabinho gets the hour, doesn't he? It's a very planned sub. I think it's 59-57 he gets. So just before the hour.
Check like an alarm on his phone.
Honestly, yeah, turned into a pumpkin if he was on for 60 exactly. So he, that would have been when Sunday in mind. So Fabinho will go again. Obviously, the captain, he'll have to go again. I just think he might go for Thiago, just because he'll be aware of what's in Chamberlain's legs. But he'll be on the bench and a good option.
What do you think he does, Emma? There's a bit of movement possibly he could do with centre-half. Obviously, there's the left-back question, as John just sort of said there, midfield. I think it will be the same front three. I'd be surprised if he deviates from that. I don't see an unlikely Origi or anything like that getting dropped in. But, you've seen the manager pull some stuff in the past. What do you think he does?
You know what? This might be a bit of a curveball, but I wouldn't be surprised if Konate comes in for Matip, just because of that... a bit of physicality and a bit of height, because West Ham, I think I saw a comment earlier, sorry, I can't remember.
There was, yeah.
Somebody mentioned the height of West Ham, and I thought that was a really good point, actually. I think Konate, just to kind of put his body about, might be brought in for that. Klopp obviously trusts him, obviously played him in the Man United game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he came in. Personally, I'd be happy either way. I'd probably go for Matip. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Konate comes in, and I do think Robertson probably will get the nod ahead of Tsimikas, but the rest I think will be the same. Yeah, apart from maybe Thiago in midfield.
Ian Turner it was who said that the size of West Ham worries him a little, Damian. They are a big side. In the middle of the park there, you've got Souček and Rice, absolute units. Obviously, the two centre-halves are big lads. Bowen, powerful footballer. Soufal, if he starts, is a bit of a unit as well. And obviously, Antonio. It will be a physical challenge, I think, for Liverpool, Damian. How do you think we're going to get on?
I'm backing us. I think, the result last night's just going to show Liverpool that they can take on anybody. I think, and I think the point about us getting control early is a very good one, because the fans are bouncing, they're having a great time, and they can get, the team can start, getting a few digs in and getting a bit of joy here and there and getting a corner and getting a free kick and going close on goal. All of a sudden it grows and grows and grows. So they can be 7'12" if they like, if they haven't got the ball. So it's about us. So it's about us controlling it, and it's about us doing that, and about us playing to our strengths. I like the idea that we're in a position where we're actually saying, of course, and who would you swap Andy Robertson for? Nobody. But we're actually thinking there's a deputy there who we can put him in here. And then, I'd have been astonished about Konate if that stunt wasn't pulled at Old Trafford, and all of a sudden, great. And I've never seen a player make Virgil look average height, because it's that physical presence, and you think, well, what did we sign him for? And we possibly lost a little bit when he was playing against Brighton, because he's not going to bring the ball out like Mata would. So if they weigh it up and sort of say, well, I want someone whose head's as bad as eyes the crossbar, because West Ham are going to try and bomb us, then Konate is someone I would use. And I would, and then by that definition, then I'll put Thiago in, because I say, well, okay, we'll control the ball more from there. They're the little adjustments, but you've got, agreeing with everyone on here, the little options that we've got, I've got no objections to any of them.
Are we going to get on?
I think we'll win. I think it'll be hard. But I think, on the back of Wednesday's performance, I think they'll ride that into the international break. And I think they'll be disappointed with last Saturday, and we'll know that's a couple dropped. But if they can win against West Ham, I think that redeems that. It can give us 10 points, from this little chunk going international break, which is perfectly fine. So, yeah, I think there'll be determination to do it. And when the side are determined, there's normally no stopping them.
Emma, fanciers?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Gibbons just said. I think it'll be close again. But yeah, I'm going 1-0 Liverpool, I think.
You don't get many 1-0 Liverpools these days, but I like that as well, Emma. I think it might be a very, very nervy last 10 minutes for the Reds, but I think that Liverpool can see this one out, and that's the way it will work. I mean, I said this about the United game, to be honest with you, so don't listen to me. But I think Liverpool will have to suffer against West Ham for a period of time. Using the manager's language, there will be a period of time where they have to suffer a little bit. But I think Liverpool will just about do the business as well. Thank you very much indeed, too. Michael McCambridge, Harry Pryor, Rachel Furness, Ryan Baldy, and John Gibbons, Emma Sanders, Damian Kavanagh. I've been Neil Atkinson. It's been your tour live this week. Whatever you're doing, have a fantastic weekend. I'm talking about the Odyssey in Calderstones Park at 3 p.m. on Saturday, if you fancy that kind of thing. The Saturday 3 o'clocks are rubbish as well, though Emma's probably got to do live text for them, so, feel sorry for her. Thank you very much to everyone. It's been tour live. See you later.